I'm very proud to introduce our first international speaker. Stand up, Lemon. Lemon is one of the assistant editors for reefbuilders.com, and he has a great passion for rare, super rare, and very, very exotic fish. You probably know Lemon through his writing on Reef Builders, and one of his favorite groups of wrasses is groups of fish is wrasses. And Lemon traveled very, very far to be here with us, so let's give him a warm North American welcome.
Yeah. Jake, let's start now. Okay. Hi. Good morning, everybody. Yeah. Okay. So today I'm going to be talking to you about wrasses. So wrasses are like very ubiquitous in the hobby. Everybody knows wrasses, and it's one of my favorite groups of fish. So what I'm going to do basically is I'm going to speak to you briefly about the biology of wrasses, and I'm going to speak individually some of the fish species that I think are really cool, like the rarer ones. So I'm going to touch about Cirrhilabrus, Paracheilinus, and a bit of Bodianus. Okay, so it's a very big family of fish. There are over 500 species in about 90 genera, and they're found in a wide variety of habitats. So most of them are coral reef associated. You can find them in the Indo-Pacific coral reefs. You can find them in sand flats. You can find them in all sorts of habitats. So what I want to talk to you about today is about some of the biology. So wrasses are, sorry, I'm a bit nervous today. Okay, they are well known for being hermaphrodites, meaning that they can change their sex from female to male throughout their entire life. So for sexuality and coloration, so protogynous hermaphrodites, meaning that the wrasses can change sex from female to male throughout their life. And so this is very evidently seen in Cirrhilabrus and Paracheilinus. Okay, so in the wild, how do you find these fishes? They live in a huge, like a group in a harem. So it's dominated by an alpha male, and then there are a lot of subordinate females and smaller males. So they live in a very complex, like a group structure. Okay, so they don't usually change for no reason. So throughout their entire lives, let's say if the social structure of the harem is affected, like the dominant male has passed on or is caught for the trade or is dead, so the most aggressive female or the largest female usually will be the one who changed sex to take place of the male that is gone. Okay, so during this change, you can see a lot of secondary sexual characteristics start appearing. So the females are usually dull and without filaments on their fins. So the males are the one with the secondary sexual characteristics. So you can see here is an example. This is a female Cirrhilabrus CF lanceolatus, and this is a corresponding male. So it's more colorful, it has a longer tail. And this is an example from Paracheilinus. It's a new species, it's Paracheilinus squiri from the Coral Sea. So you can see the male has a longer tail, is more colorful than the female. So this is what we call secondary sexual characteristics for the male. Okay, they are dichromatic and dimorphic. Dimorphic means that you can differentiate the sexes based on form, and dichromatic means you can differentiate the sexes based on color. Okay, so why do these wrasses need to be so colorful? Why do the males have to be so, elaborately designed and colorful? It's because of spawning. The more colorful the male, the more attractive it is to the female, and so they stand a better chance for spawning. So they don't do it all the time. Usually the wrasses spawn at certain times of the day, like towards the evening or certain tidal changes or the moon phases. It will affect when they spawn. So they do it either in groups or pairs. So males, you have two kinds of males. We have female-derived males, which are the primary males. These are the males that arise from females. So when the large male dies and female transform the males, these are ones that control the harem. They are the ones that swim above the surface, the one that dominates everything. They're the one who decides who they want to breed with and all that. And then we have also secondary males, which are also known as satellite males. So some wrasses are born as males. Most of them are born females. So throughout their life, they live as females. And if the time arises, they can change to males. But there are some that are born males, and these are secondary males. They look just like females. They're incognito. They blend in. And okay, so yeah, primary males, they change from females, blah, blah, blah. They slightly, they possess the ability to flash. So I'll touch on this later on the next slide. And satellite males, they are duller, they are drab, they're often female-looking, and they are opportunistic spawners. So what happens in the wild is the primary males, they will start swimming around the harem, they'll start flashing their nuptial coloration, and this will get the females excited. So when they start to rise and spawn, these satellite males, because they're not so colorful, they can't attract the females as much. They sneak in at the last minute and they release their gametes. So they try to snatch the females, so to speak. Yeah. And this is seen in a few other genus, Paracheilinus as well. Okay. And okay, apart from the spawning and whatnot, the interesting thing about wrasses is because they're so diverse, they have adapted to different types of feeding styles. So this is one minor point on the biology of wrasses. Okay. So we have planktonic, benthic, coral. So we have wrasses that feed entirely from the water column, like fairy wrasse and flasher wrasse. They spend their entire life swimming in the water column above coral reefs, and they pick out like plankton and other like small shrimp and basically planktonic food. And then we also have benthic, meaning that they feed from the bottom. So we have species like Bodianus. They feed on small crustaceans and invertebrates at the floor. And then we have also coral-feeding wrasses from the genus Labridae. They are almost entirely coral polyp dependent, the adults. So they, in the juvenile form, they clean other fishes, they act as parasite cleaners. But in the adult form, they feed on polyps of SPS corals. And also, there are various feeding strategies. So sand diving, for example, is seen in razor wrasses and dragon wrasses. They have the ability to dive into the sand and look for food, small shrimps or clams that live under the sand. And also rock flipping is very commonly seen in dragon wrasses, Novaculi something, I can't remember. So they flip the rocks and they get the little invertebrates that hide underneath. And also shell crushing. So some of the larger Bodianus, they have very strong jaws. They can actually crush like urchins and clams to get to the food that's inside. Okay, so before this, I mentioned about spawning and nuptial coloration. So these are a few examples of wrasses in their nuptial coloration. So the first picture you can see here is a Cirrhilabrus CF lanceolatus. This is still an undescribed species found in Japan and Philippines. So this is when it's flashing, and the one below is Cirrhilabrus rubisquamis. It's called a rosy scale fairy wrasse. So they display this coloration when they're attracting females for spawning, or when they're sparring against other males. So when in the normal coloration, they don't flare their fins so much, and they don't show the brightly accented fins. Yeah, so this is when they're showing their nuptial coloration. So we have another example here. This is from a flasher wrasse family. This is Paracheilinus and And yeah, this is more examples of wrasses when they flash. So you can see here is example. This is from Hiroki Tanaka. So picture 1 is when the fish is in its unexcited state. And picture 2 shows the fish when it's flashing. So you can see the color change. And here is another example. Usually when they display, it's also accompanied by fin flaring. So fin flaring and color change, these are what attracts the females. Okay, so with all this spawning and flashing and, what about hybrids? Do hybrids wrasses exist? Yes, they do. But they're very rare, and they're only notable in a few genus. So you can find naturally occurring hybrids for wrasses in Thalassoma, Cirrhilabrus, and Paracheilinus. So for Thalassoma, we have documented hybrids of these two species. And in Cirrhilabrus, there's only one so far that has been documented to hybridize. But in Paracheilinus, we can see there are many examples of hybrids. Okay, why is this so? Because for flasher wrasses, they are very uncoordinated spawners. In the wild, many Paracheilinus live together, different species living together. So the females are often very similar, and they mix around interspecifically. So the males will spawn together, different species of males will spawn together. And during this release of gametes, they will be bound to have accidental fertilization. So we can see a lot of different hybrids arising in Paracheilinus. But this is not the case for Cirrhilabrus. They're more organized spawners. They don't really mix around with that much. So here's an example of a hybrid Paracheilinus. The middle picture is a Paracheilinus togiensis and filamentosus hybrid, okay, which I will elaborate more on later. Okay, so this is a picture of Paracheilinus flavianalis. Okay, this is taken by Pisces. And it can hybridize with, this is Paracheilinus filamentosus, to form this hybrid. So you can see it has a mixture of both the adult phenotypes. So it kept the yellow anal fin for Flavianalis, but it has the filaments of filamentosus. So Paracheilinus Flavianalis normally has 1 to 2 filaments, but this one has 3. Yeah, and you can look at the tail. Flavianalis has a rounded tail, while filamentosus has like a crescent tail. So the resulting hybrid has the crescent tail of the filamentosus, the yellow fin of Flavianalis, and a little bit of both mixed together. Okay, this is one of my favorite hybrids. This is Paracheilinus sorry, it's a royal flasher. I suddenly forgot the name. Okay, so it's hybridized with lineal punctatus, and you get this hybrid. Yeah. So you get the angular fins, and you get the filaments, which is not seen in the previous species. And this is Togiensis with filamentosus. So the resulting hybrid will have a mix of both phenotypes. You get all the filaments from filamentosus, but you also have the rounded fins of Togiensis. And this is my personal favorite. This is Cirrhilabrus CF lunatus from Philippines, hybridizing with Cirrhilabrus CF lanceolatus. And the resulting hybrid is this. And this is taken from my tank. All 3 of them are taken from my tank. These are my personal fish. So just to let you know, the names. Right. So this is a few examples of hybrid Wrasses. Okay, so I'm just going to touch briefly on 3 different genus, the main genus that you find in the trade: Cirrhilabrus, Paracheilinus, and Bodianus. So Wrasses are huge. We have over 90 genera, 500 species, but not all of them enter the aquarium trade. So these are the 3 most common ones: fairy wrasse, flasher wrasse, and hawk fishes. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but I will touch briefly on the more seldom seen ones, the rarer ones, so that you get a feel of what is out there that is not seen in the trade. Okay, so for Cirrhilabrus, we have over 52 species. So this is the entire list of Cirrhilabrus species known for now. All those that have the black asterisks are new. So Cirrhilabrus humani is new. And the ones in the yellow, the colored asterisks are in their respective complexes. Okay, so what is a complex? So we have a very large genus over here with over 52 species. All of them are different. All of them are, have their own genetic background. But there are a few that are very closely related, more closely related than the others. So what we do is we call them a certain complex. So the ones in the yellow stars are in the Adonatus complex, and the ones in the green star are in the Ruby ventralis complex. So all these in the same complex are very similar looking, but they're all distinct. So they probably share a common ancestor or sister species or allopatric in this distribution. Okay, and the ones in red are currently undescribed, so they have a CF beside the name. So what is CF? CF means to confer. So Cirrhilabrus CF lanceolatus, it just means that this fish is undescribed, but it looks like lanceolatus, so they just put the CF there to let you know that, confer to this, but it's still new. And the ones in blue are the ones I'm going to touch on briefly, just to show you like a little bit of background. They're all very rare. You don't see them at all in the trade, or very seldom anyway. Okay, so this is one of my favorites, Cirrhilabrus clare. Okay, so it's originally endemic to the Cook Islands. And for the longest time, since before 2012, nothing is known about this fish. We've only seen the holotype picture. So this is the original holotype picture. Okay, the holotype means that it's the first fish that they collect, and it's to represent the species. So it's now in a jar in a museum. So it's only in 2012 where Rufus Kimura and his team managed to catch some from the Southern Pacific. And then it's only then that we get to see this fish alive in its true living coloration. So this first picture over here was photographed by Koji from Blue Harbor. So you can see that the color from the holotype and the actual fish is very different. Because very often holotype fishes, when they are photographed, they are dead and preserved. So they lose a lot of their natural coloration. So I went to Blue Harbor that year, 2012. It's very timely because when I was there, the same pair that was at the bottom is photographed over here. The top is the male and the bottom is the female. So you can see that actually Cirrhilabrus clare is a very unique fish. It has like a purple sheen with like an olive green slate to it. Okay, and so far there's only been, I think, if I'm not wrong, five pieces to be collected. So these were the first two. And then over the months to come, there were more. And a friend of mine in Singapore actually bought one for, what, $3,000 to $4,000. It's very expensive. And this is the one that I photographed, is the one that he has it now. So this is a large male with very long ventral fins, and it's like an alpha male coloration. So this is a terminal phase male. So what do we mean by terminal phase? When the Wrasse is in the terminal phase, it means that it's fully grown, it's male, it has attained its maximum coloration. So yeah, Cirrhilabrus clare is a very nice fish. Okay, this is another rare fish that has never entered the trade before, Cirrhilabrus blatius. It's a Red Sea endemic. It's also deep water. It's found in 65 meters and below. And it is one of the lanceolated tail species. That means in the genus of Cirrhilabrus, there are some Wrasses with like a lancet-shaped tail. It's like a pointed, like a sword shape. So this is one of them. And this fish is, it has never been seen in the trade. The common name for it is a purple-bone fairy wrasse, for the long, that little dotted purple line on its body. So these were pictures sent to me by Dr. Eran Brokovic from this photograph in the Red Sea at 65 meters at Eilat. Okay, here you see a large alpha male, terminal male swimming with a Genicanthus cordovitatus from the Red Sea. And here's a typical scene of the habitat. It's very barren because it's deep water, so not much coral growth. It's very rubble-like. But you can see down at that depth, it's not very rare. You look, how many can you find? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's at least a dozen over here, males and females together. Okay, so certain times when we say something is rare, it doesn't mean it's rare in the wild. It just means it's rare in the trade. So once you hit the specific, like a location and a certain depth, it becomes very common. So yeah, you can see there's a large male at the front and a few females at the back. So this is a typical setting of what a Cirrhilabrus harem looks like. Loosely aggregated females swimming around, and there will be 1 or 2 large males that control the group. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. Okay, this is a fish that I'm sure most of you will be familiar with, Cirrhilabrus irlae. This fish used to be very rare. It used to be found in Palau only. So back when, a few years ago, only the Japanese were able to get shipments from Palau. So only the Japanese for a long time had access to this fish. But over the years, deep water expeditions and deep water diving in Hawaii and Marshall Islands have found that this fish actually occurs in Marshall Islands as well. So it's like a range extension. So many of them that come in the trade now are from the Marshall Islands. So over the years, it's become not say very common, but it's become more available. And it's also a deep water species found in 50 meters and above, below. So we've seen in large males, sometimes they develop this like a rhomboidal shaped tail. It's not very common, but we do see it in some specimens. So these are all photographed in Japan. The first one was photographed by me in one of the Koji Wada's customers' house in Japan, in Osaka. So this was when they found in the wild. And this is when it's flashing. So you look at the nuptial coloration, it's very different from when it's not flashing. So in its displaying mode, it has this like a lavender lilac stripe that goes from its, from its head to its tail, and the color becomes more intense. Okay, this is another species that is very rare in the trade. We've only, I think, as far as I know, there's only been one that was caught. It's a Japanese endemic, Cirrhilabrus katoi. Okay, unlike most fairy wrasse, this is not really a reef-associated wrasse. It's found more in like rocky substrates with a bit of sparse kelp growth. It's because it's a subtropical Japanese, slightly cool water fish. So I have 2 YouTube videos over here, which I'm going to show you. So Minika, could you? Yeah. Okay, so the first video shows this is a female in its habitat. You can see it's not really full of coral, it's just rock. And there's a male at the background, flashing. Can you see? Look at how it's displaying. So this is a typical what a Cirrhilabrus looks like when it's displaying. Okay, it flares its fin, its color changes, and it swims around the female, try to attract its attention. So if the female is willing to mate with it, they will start their spawning ascent. Yeah, look at it. Look at the male. Yeah, you can see the habitat it lives in is not very reef-like at all. It's a bit of kelp and rocks. Okay, Minika, can you show the next video? Thanks. Okay, so this video we have 2 males sparring at each other. They're displaying each other. So sometimes when, Cirrhilabrus are a bit territorial, so when two males come into the same area, they will start to display to let them know, hey, back off, this is my area, this is my females, go away. So this is basically what they're doing. So very often when you keep different types of fairy wrasses in the tank, if the tank is too small or you have too many males, this is what they'll do. They start fighting with each other, they'll start flashing with each other, they start flaring, they start chasing. So they start biting, they start nipping the fins, and this will cause a lot of stress. Okay. Back to the PowerPoint, please. Okay. So as I've mentioned before, this is not a very common species. We've only seen one. As far as I know, this is from Blue Harbor. It's a male catoi with Cirrhilabrus CF lanceolatus at the back. So I'm not sure how many has been caught for the trade, but yeah, I think this is the only one. Okay, next, Cirrhilabrus sanguineus. This is also another lanceolated tail species. It has a long lance-shaped tail, and it's a Mauritian endemic, and it's also deep water. It's found in 60 meters and below. So this is a female, and the male at the bottom. The common name for this fish is called the blood-stained fairy wrasse, because of that red blotch in the middle of his body. Yeah, so these were pictures sent by Dr. Hiroki Tanaka. This is when it's flashing, it's in its nuptial coloration. So far there's only been one male that's been, every time you Google this fish, you see it on the internet, or you look at it in books, it's only been one specimen, this Dr. Tanaka's one. There's, to my knowledge, none collected so far. But hopefully we'll see it someday, because Mauritian exports are getting more and more common nowadays. Okay, so Cirrhilabrus lanceolatus. So remember before this I spoke about Cirrhilabrus CF lanceolatus from the Philippines. So this is the real lanceolatus, the one that is being compared to because of the same tail shape. Okay, so this is a very large species. It's Japan endemic. These two were photographed by me in Osaka in one of the Japanese reefers' house. It's a very big species. It grows to about 17 centimeters in size, and it's very closely related to Cirrhilabrus roseae. Okay, so just to give you an example of how big this fish is, this is a large adult male with an outstretched hand. This is one collected earlier this year in Japan. Okay, they are also very deep water. They're not common at all. Yeah, this is the one that was photographed in Osaka. So you can see the tail is very long and it has this emerald green trim along the fins. And earlier this year, we had one large male that came into Singapore, my country. So one of my friends bought it, and this is his specimen in his home tank. So you can see the tail is very long and it has this very characteristic emerald green trimming on its fin. So here's another picture of it. And this is one with Cirrhilabrus clare. And this is a picture of a nuptial male flashing in the wild. So this is a picture that you see all the time in Google Images. It's very common. So look at it when it's flashing. It has the green is very pronounced. It has this very nice magenta stripe that runs from its eye down to its tail. Yeah. So it's a very big fish. It's very big for Cirrhilabrus. Okay, so now let's talk briefly on one of the complexes that I mentioned about before. So it's very interesting to know that within the genus, there are, when a fish is placed in a genus, it means they're all quite closely related in the first place. So within this genus, there are some that are even more closely related. They're like sister species, they're like allied. So we have seen this is a Cirrhilabrus lunatus complex. It has 6 members. So lunatus from Japan, and then we have Johnsoni from Marshall and Micronesia, Squirei from Coral Sea, and then the last 3 all overlap in the Philippines. And 2 of them are undescribed. And it is in this complex that we see hybrids forming, and it's the only hybrid to be documented in Cirrhilabrus, the genus. Okay, so we see here, Cirrhilabrus lunatus. This is the one that is found in Japan. This is Cirrhilabrus squirei. It's still undescribed for now, but the name is more or less been agreed upon. So it's named after Lau Squire from Cairns Marine, where it's from Coral Sea. And then we have Cirrhilabrus johnsoni from the Marshall Islands. This picture is from Tony Vargas. Hope he doesn't mind. So you can see immediately that they all have this very similar look to it. They have this same crescent-shaped tail. They're all about the same size. But because they're all found in very they're very far away from each other. One is in Japan, one is in Marshall Islands, one is in the Coral Sea. So they're not that similar yet, but still they share the same complex. And okay, it's in this Philippines complex that is more interesting. This is Cirrhilabrus bruneus. which for a long time has been thought to be a black variant of Cirrhilabrus lunatus. But after DNA analysis sent by Dr. Tanaka, it's been described as a valid species. So the one on top is from my specimen, and the one at the bottom is a wild picture of Cirrhilabrus bruneus from the Philippines. And we have Cirrhilabrus CF lanceolatus and Cirrhilabrus CF lunatus. So you can see immediately that the lunatus from Philippines is very much different from the one in Japan. The one in Japan has a very thick yellow stripe near its body, whereas the Philippines one has a very reticulated appearance, spots and stripes. And Cirrhilabrus CF lanceolatus is the only member in the lunatus complex that doesn't have a crescent tail. It has a long lancet-shaped tail. But why do we say they're in the same complex? Because this fish on top hybridizes with Cirrhilabrus CF lunatus below to give you this hybrid. So if they're able to hybridize in the wild, that means they're really, they're very genetically similar. And look at the tail of the hybrid. It has a slightly emarginate tip that comes from the lunatus, but in the middle it has a slight protrusion that comes from the lancet tail of Cirrhilabrus CF lanceolatus. So we have a mix of two traits over here. Okay, and also Cirrhilabrus CF lanceolatus also hybridizes with the real lunatus from Japan, which gives you this at the bottom. So it's very similar looking, but one is hybridized. One of the parent is from Philippines and one of the parent is from Japan. And so this is when it's in nuptial coloration, it's flashing. So far this has been the only hybrid Cirrhilabrus that has been documented. I mean, there could be more in the wild, just that it's not been documented yet. Okay, so let's move on to Wrasses now, Paracheilinus. So this family is much smaller than Cirrhilabrus, but it also forms more hybrids than the previous genus. So I'll just touch on 4 species today. The one in the black asterisk is new. It's a newer species to be described in 2013, Paracheilinus renier. Okay, so this fish is very interesting to me, Paracheilinus hemitenatus. The background photo is the famous one that's found all over the books and internet, pictured by Dennis King. So its location is in Madagascar, and it's really identified by its half stripes. So hemitenatus, hemi means partial or half, and tenatus means stripes. So you can see for the male, the body, the stripes run only halfway through the body. And in 2013, we saw at least a couple of specimens being caught for the trade for the first time. Okay, so this is a wild picture, male and a female, photographed by Dennis King. And this is a large male photographed by Menzel in Europe. And this is a screen capture of the male from one of their YouTube videos. Okay, immediately you can see the half stripes in the male. And take notice of on the base of his pectoral fins, there is a little, like a hoop that goes around the fin base. This is an interesting characteristic that's seen only in 2 species of Paracheilinus, the other being Piscilinatus, which I will talk about later. So it has a very long swallow tail, and it's a bit greenish, like an olive green hue to it. And this is a juvenile that my friend has at home. Look at it, immediately it's set apart from all the other juvenile Paracheilinus. There's a large black spot at the base of its dorsal area. Okay, and this is another species of Wrasses that is also very nice and also not found in the trade. It's a Paracheilinus nersalim. It is found in West Papua, mainly Triton Bay. Okay, it's common where it's found, but it's unavailable to trade because it's very far out and there's no collection over there. And you can see over here that when the male flashes, it's very nice, like a magenta short anal fin and ventral fins, and the filaments all turn white. So this is a typical setting for this species in the wild. The female all live in a large group in like a rubble made out of dead fungia corals. And so the males will start flashing and swimming around the females and enticing them to start displaying. So this is the nuptial coloration. Look at the filaments are all white and the fins are all yellow and red. And this picture shows the fish in its not flashing colors, but still a little bit excited. So you can see that when it's not flashing in a while, normally the fins will just drape over its body. It only erect and flare its fins during its courtship behavior. Okay, so remember when I said Paracheilinus piscilinatus, this is the one. This is also an endemic fish to Mauritius. And it used to be very, very rare. It used to be like Cirrhilabrus clare. It's only known from one holotype picture. Nobody has ever seen the fish in real life until about 2010 when they started exporting it from Mauritius. And then now we've been seeing it more and more. So it's less rare than it used to be, and it's more available. So this is a juvenile with like a very dusky, rusty coloration, and this is of a young male. So you can see that the base of the pectoral fin also has this, like a hoop that goes around it. It's very interesting. It's only found in this species and in Hemitineatus. And this is a picture of an alpha male, a fully grown terminal face male displaying in a tank. This is by Kevin Cohen. And look at the dorsal fin at the end. It has this very nice, like a shape that is not seen in other. So normally for Paracheilinus, it's either the fins are round or the fins are loaded with a lot of filaments. But this one has a nice, like a little steep going up slope to it. Yeah, and look at the hoop around the ventral fin, the pectoral fin base. Okay, and the last species that we're going to talk about is the new Paracheilinus renier. So this was only described in 2013 last year, late last year. I think it's in November if I'm not wrong. Okay, so it's found in Flores, in specifically Komodo Islands. And it's the newest addition, and genetically it's most closely related to Angulatus, even though the fin doesn't look anything like Angulatus, but genetically it's the most similar. And what's interesting about this fish is, prior to its description in 2013, there's already been a lot of photos of it in the wild. Pictures taken by casual divers and underwater photographers. But back then, nobody knew what it was, so it was always been listed as just, SP. So this is one when it's flashing in the wild, displaying its nuptial coloration. And here you can see ABC are all displaying males of Paracheilinus renier. At the bottom, D, we have Paracheilinus octotanea, which looks superficially similar, but they are totally unrelated. Octotanea is found in the Red Sea, very far away from Komodo, Indonesia. And on the lower right, we have Paracheilinus togiensis, which also has the same, rounded fins, but also, again, not related. Yeah. Okay, and the last group of fish that I'll be talking about will be Bodianus. So this is a very large genus with over 47 species, and it's found all over the world. It's found in the Atlantic, it's found in the Caribbean, it's found in Indonesia, and found in everywhere. So it's like circumglobal in its distribution. And there are notable species complex. So some scientists, they have grouped similarly the similar species complex into its own subgenus. So there are 11 subgenus in Bodianus, but it's not really recognized. But for this slide, just for for simplicity's sake, I'll just use a few of it. So they're normally large and very boisterous with strong crushing teeth, but there are notable exceptions. So you can see over here, the background is by a Bodianus paraleucosticticus with its mouth open. If you look closely, you can see the teeth. So this is for crushing like shrimps and other benthic invertebrates. So we have in the subgenus Trochocopus, they're all the similar looking ones. And then we have Peneverreo, and just for fun, Bodianus. Okay, for this complex of Bodianus, we see all the ones that look very similar. So it has the Neopercularis type shape with slender and the same type of coloration, red base fish. So we have Bimaculatus, Izuensis, we have Masudae, we have Neopercularis, and the very closely related Opercularis. We have Sanguineus, we have Stepiacordus, and the last one, Bodianus Tankyokidus, is very rare. It's from the Indian Ocean. There's not been any pictures available. It's only been a holotype, so I didn't include it in this slide. But immediately you can see that just based on all the species in the same complex, it's very similar. They have the same type of body shape and the same base coloration. So I'll just talk about a few on them. Okay, this is another very rare Japanese endemic. Actually, not really endemic. Yeah. I see. Okay, so Bodianus masudae used to be thought to be endemic to Japan, but in 2011 we have 2 specimens that were caught from Sulawesi, Indonesia. So one was caught by Bali Aquaridge, another one was caught by another Sulawesi supplier, which eventually shipped the fish to Singapore. So it's very deep water and it's very rare. It's usually found from 50 meters depth onwards, and some of them are so deep that they appear in trawler bycatch. So sometimes Japanese people, they trawl for fish, they catch for food fish, and then once in a while, Bodianus masudae will appear in a trawler net full of food fishes, and then it'll be sold at the market for human consumption. I don't know. So this is the juvenile. It's very different from the adult. It's black with a broad yellow stripe. So this transitioning juvenile to adult subadult was photographed in Osaka Blue Harbor. And over here we can see a typical fully grown Bodianus masudae from Japan. Another one with Terelabrus sp on top and Odontius chrysosticticus at the bottom. And this was the one that was caught by Bali anchorage from Sulawesi. So in 2011, there was like a little range extension for this species. So it's only thought to be, occur in Japan, maybe Taiwan, but now you can find it in Indonesia as well. And this specimen was also caught in Sulawesi and was sent to Singapore. It was bought by one of my friends. So it's actually it's a very large Bodianus. It's about maybe 6-7 inches fully grown, and it's very nice. It's red and a yellow stripe. It's very striking. Okay, here we have another very rare Bodianus, which is also quite deep in its occurrence. So it's endemic to Hawaii. It's found from 40 to 150 meters. It's a Bodianus sanguinus, and this is the juveniles. These are photographed in Blue Harbor again, in Osaka. Here's an adult, and this is another adult. This was taken from Bob Fenner. It's photographed by last year at House of Fins. So this fish occurs in a white form, which is very interesting because a few of these Bodianus from this complex occurs in two color forms, one in a white and one in a yellow. And in the wild, both white and yellow forms occur, but when you put them in an aquarium, sometimes the color will, the white one will become yellow, but the yellow one will never become white. So all these white form Bodianus sanguinus in the wild, they occur as this white color form, but when you put it in an aquarium, after a few months, they turn to yellow. So nobody really knows why. Maybe it's diet, maybe it's, male-female interaction or whatever. But this white and yellow form is seen in a few other species, which I will go on later. Okay, so this is two very, very closely related species. One is Bodianus neopocularis. This is a Pacific Ocean fish. It's found from Japan onwards to Micronesia, and up to recently it was very rare. You never see it in the trade, but recently they've been collecting from Marshall Islands, and so it's appearing more and more frequently, just like Cirrhilabrus ala. Okay, and there is a sister species to this, meaning what? Meaning in the Indian Ocean, there is another species that looks just like it, almost identical, but they are separated by two different oceans, and that is Bodianus opocularis. So you can see that they look superficially very similar. And in neopocularis, there is also a yellow form, which I will show you later. So over the years, it's become very common. So you can see it appearing all over in Japan, in Taiwan, in Singapore, even in the US. It's very common. You see it all the time. And this is a yellow form that is from Pacific Island Aquatics. So you can see that the stripes are yellow instead of white. But this yellow form usually doesn't revert back to the white form, but the white one, after a while, will become yellow. But I have personally never seen this occurring in Bodianus opocularis. It's only in neopocularis. Yeah, so they're very closely related. And okay, this is a very interesting fish that I want to talk to you about. It's Bodianus sp, currently undescribed. Okay, so it's Bodianus sp inverted commas kimura, named after Rufus Kimura, who first caught it in Tahiti. So it's found in the Southern Pacific, Tahiti and Moorea. And there are two known adult forms and two known juvenile forms for this one species of fish. So before I mentioned, some of them are yellow form, some of them are white form. For this species, there's a white adult form and there's also a white juvenile form. A yellow and white adult form and a yellow and white juvenile form. And we're not very sure at this point whether the color change is caused by diet or how the social structure of the fish occurs in the wild. And we're also unsure if this fish is even a new species in the first place. I'm not sure if they are examining it scientifically now. But this is a typical adult Bodianus kimura from Japan. So that's photographed in Blue Harbor. This is also photographed in Blue Harbor. And this one was photographed by me in Blue Harbor. So you can see in this adult form, it's yellow and orange. This is the very first, if I'm not wrong, the very first specimen that was caught. So these are all adults of Bodianus inverted commas kimura. And so when I was at Blue Harbor, swimming alongside this adult fish was another Bodianus. It was this Bodianus. It was white and red. So immediately I thought, oh, this is just a juvenile neopocularis, not related to Kimura at all. So I just took a picture. I just took one picture of it, just for like momental sake. But I was more interested in the adult Kimura hawkfish. So fast forward 1 year later, it's been published in Japanese magazines. Even Koji told me himself that this white and red neopocularis looking hawkfish is now the fish on top. So when it's in its adult form, it has become Bodianus kimura. So now we ask ourselves, is the juvenile form of Bodianus kimura white and red? Well, okay, so yeah, again, there's an adult white and red juvenile, adult white and red kimura and a normal kimura. So the juvenile that was white and red grew up into the yellow face one. So now we ask ourselves, is the juvenile of Bodianus kimura white and red instead of yellow? Well, the answer is no, because there is a juvenile form that is also yellow in coloration, which is this. This is a juvenile caught kimura hawkfish that was totally yellow in color, totally different from the red and white stripe form. But when this fish grew up, it became the same fish. It became the yellow form. So now we have a fish that has two different juvenile forms. So we're not sure what's going on in the wild. And it's also been noted by Rufus that in the wild, the adult kimura hawkfish, the white and red form, when they caught it, they put it in the tank, it changed to yellow over time. So it could be a diet thing, it could be a male-female thing, we don't really know what's going on. So but anyway, the small yellow one, the juvenile yellow ones, is, again, my friend bought it, and it grew up to look exactly like this one. So this was taken by John Coppolino in Japan. Okay, and the second last group that I'll be touching upon is the subgenus Peneverreo. So there's 4 species in it: Bodianus trilineatus, Bodianus paraleucosticticus, Bodianus rubricosus, and the last one, Bodianus leucosticticus, looks just like paraleucosticticus, just that it's same thing with Neopocularis and Opocularis. One is an Indian Ocean species, one is a Pacific Ocean species. So leucosticticus is found in the Indian Ocean, and looks just like the one on the lower right-hand corner, just that the lower stripe is reddish pink and the black spot on the dorsal fin isn't as big. So anyway, in this genus, only one of it is quite regularly offered to the trade, and it is Paraleucosticticus, which is the one you see at the back. So this is a picture of from my own specimen at home. So this fish is, it looks very menacing. It's big mouth, big teeth, but it's very peaceful. So far, I've kept it without any issues. It didn't eat any of my shrimp. It eats only flake food, and it's very, very peaceful, and it's also very nice. So it used to be found in the Cook Islands and Vanuatu, but now we get it often from the Coral Sea. So if you have, shipments from Cairns Marine or any Coral Sea producing, supplies, you can probably see it once in a while if you request for it. So it's very nice fish. It's very peaceful. It's something that I would really encourage anybody to keep if they are interested in Bodianus, because most Bodianus are very well known for being very aggressive, being very belligerent, but this is totally opposite. It's a very peaceful fish. Okay, and just to end my talk, for fun, I'm just going to mention about this. So this Bodianus cylindriatus, it is a very unknown fish. Nobody really knows about this fish. This is the only ever specimen caught alive for the trade. It's not even caught intentionally. It was caught by a trawler net. So it's extremely deep water, often in excess of 100 meters. This particular one was caught in excess of 250 meters. So they will they'll catch like mackerel and other food fish, and this was a bycatch. Okay, so it's in the subgenus Priobodianus. It's very, obviously you look at it, it looks very different from the other Bodianus. It's very cylindrical in shape. The eyes are very different. And the only other species in this group that is not shown here is Bodianus thoracotaeniatus, which is even rarer than this. I've never even seen a live photo. So just for fun and just to end off my talk, this is the only live picture known of Bodianus cylindriatus from Japan, caught at 250 meters. Yeah, and that's it. Any questions?